Hi everybody, welcome to week 6. So this week, this week's a little easier. Last week we were doing some more complicated pattern work like entrelac, and we will actually come to the more complicated crochet technique. For me, that is Tunisian crochet. I can never pronounce it right. It's Tunisian, I'm pretty sure, or Afghan crochet. But this week we're doing something easy, so I'm just going to show you how to do a couple simple things. We're going to learn duplicate stitch and how to fix mistakes in a pattern where maybe you need a duplicate stitch. And then I'm going to show you how to embroider on top of crochet or knitting. So it's going to be a fun, simple, kind of easy week. So let's get into that. Alright, so get my scissors out of the way. First we're going to do duplicate stitch. So I'm going to show you what you would do. I've got a size 4 weight yarn. This is actually a Karen yarn. So Karen, you know, if you know, it's kind of almost like a 3/4. Okay, so that means sport weight or Aran weight. They're pretty close. So I knit this with a size 7 needle, so it's got a relatively tight weave. Okay, I purposefully made a mistake in here, so if you can look and see where it is, I'll give you a second to look. I just want you to be able to know that I purposely made it look beautiful, so you would be able to pick out the problem. But if you have trouble, you can always put a dark cloth or something behind, and sometimes that helps you find it. So if you're looking, and I know that I'm not perfect, so not everything's gonna look perfect, but here we go. Here is the problem in my knitting. I made a small mistake. So is this something where I need to completely go back and unravel my work? No. And if you were the type of person who needed that, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with going back and fixing your mistakes, but maybe, let's say I cast off, I'm done with, this is my scarf, okay, or blanket square or something like that. Let's say I finished my blanket or whatever it is, and this is what I have left, and I cast off, I'm all set, I'm happy with it, and oh no, I've got a problem here. First of all, you want to assess whether or not it's something that's going to unravel. So give it like a little tug. If it doesn't move around, you know that you're fine. So if you had to fix something that was going to unravel, that's going to be a different video. But this one, there's nothing wrong with it. I just split the yarn. So you see how this yarn has a weave to it and it twists? Well, if you split the yarn, you're going in between some of the yarn. Okay, so I've got this little bit that's holding on for dear life to the stitch above it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's going to be fine. But what we want to do is we want to make it look a little prettier, right? So let's do a duplicate stitch. So I want at least 6 inches of yarn here, okay? So that's at least 6. And then I want to fold it in half, okay? And I want my scissors. I want to fold it in half, and I want to cut where the yarn ends. Okay, so I want 12 inches of yarn. I know this is more than 12, but I'm being safe. Okay, so thread your needle. It's going to be the exact same color we used before. Thread your needle, and we're going to come in here And I'm going to show you how to do a duplicate stitch. So this is pretty nice. So we're going to come into the stitch below because we want to redo this loop right here. So if you follow it, let's look at it very closely. If you follow it, you know that your stitch starts down here, loops around the back of this one and through and comes out to the front and down into this one again, okay? So to start, we're going to start from the back and we're going to come in to this right here. I'm being careful. Take your time. And I'm not trying to split though. So if you find that you're kind of splitting yarn, don't. Take your needle out and try again. And this is just a tapestry needle you get from Joann's or Michael's, okay? Take the yarn, wrap it, go through the bottom of that loop. We're going to wrap it around this way. So we're going to go through the back of this one. Okay, it's the one above. So we're following this line here. So go through and we're going to pass through and come out on the same side. So we're following that, right? This right here, okay? Make sure too, your hand in the back is holding this tail. You don't want your tail to go through, okay? So see, this is what the needle looks like on the other side. It's parallel with this right here. If you understand what you're doing to get that stockinette stitch, you'll be happier in the long run, okay? So I did that, look at that. Let's pull this out a little so we can see it. All right, so now we're going to come back and into exactly where we came out of. Okay, so come back down like this. All right, so we're going to fix that by pulling on both ends right here of your duplicate stitch you started, and I unthreaded it, and voila. Oops, sorry. This is where your funny stitch was before. So that's completely gone. Look at that. That big mistake that you notice now is hidden. So there's still a little bit of that funniness right there, but that's okay. So then what you would do, and I'm pretty sure I've shown you this type of thing before, is you would come in here and just weave your tail a couple times into the stitches. So follow the bumps. And away. Okay? Like that. Cut your tail. Oh. Nobody's going to see this end anyway. It's amazing how much you can do to make your knitting look nice. There are always some ways to help yourself out. Okay, so I'm done with that. So that is your duplicate stitch. So see how it's relatively gone in the back, and in the front, that funny stitch is gone. Okay, great. That's that look. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to do it in color. So now I'm going to show you how to do a duplicate stitch in a color. So I want to make something that is going to be cute. So I want a specific thing. I'm going to make a tulip, okay? And I'm going to make it with this color. So I'm going to, because I'm doing duplicate stitch, I can't take it from the ball directly. I have to have like a tail. So I'm going to need a little bit, not a whole lot. but just enough to make the design, okay? So I'm gonna come and I'm gonna make a tulip, I think right here. I'm gonna start here. So I'm going to start my duplicate stitch, and this time I'm using a different color because I want to get that color. So if you're afraid of intarsia work, this is a great technique, because you can, if you don't like how it looks, you can fix it and come back. And it's not permanent, so it's kind of like embroidering. Okay, so that's my first. See how it sits on top? It's gonna be the only difference with this, like a duplicate stitch and intarsia, is it's gonna be a little bit more, it's gonna stick out more. So intarsia kind of melts into your pattern work, and duplicate stitch kind of sits on top. So you will have those stitches on the back. There's definitely a back and a front, but you're making the V's. So you can oh my gosh, you can do or duplicate the bumps and garter, but it's not as pretty as just doing it and stocking it. So sorry to like stutter that out. It won't be as pretty. So make sure your tail doesn't get real caught up in this. And just follow slowly. Sorry if you couldn't see that. Slowly follow the pattern work here. So I'm going to, it's kind of like embroidery. I wish I had like a pattern to show you, but I'm just making the tulip shape. So tulips are kind of round at the bottom, and then they kind of separate up at the top. So if you have trouble with this too, you can always kind of adjust. But whenever you start with a stockinette, always start the bottom of the stitch, come in and around. I think I got caught in something, but that's okay. And down and through. Okay. So then I'm going to come up and do another row, just a little tulip. Just remember how it goes. And see how this isn't like sitting properly. I can just kind of massage it into place a little. Sometimes just pulling on it too can help. And then I can pull on this stitch a little. So it will come back in. It's quite a lot like needlepoint. So this kind of allows you, you might have to fluff it a little with your needle to get it to look nice. See how this one's kind of sticking out a little weird, so just pull it down and there you go. So literally I would make a bigger tulip, but I don't really need to. So back down here. It might end up kind of looking like a heart. It really just depends on how big it ends up being. So see how when I do make it, kind of bring it down, move it around. Okay. So what I did was 2 rows of the 3 here for that duplicate stitch. See how it kind of sometimes needs a little maneuvering to make it look nicer. So there's your duplicate stitch, 3 rows, and then 1 down at the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to do 1 up here. It'll probably end up looking like a heart. You know how tulips kind of have like a divot in the center, like the edge of the petal comes up on the sides. So and then through. Okay. And then I'm going to come over here. If you are wanting to be real precise, like not really have it shown through, you can weave it through the bottom here. It's only a stitch over, so it's not really going to make a difference because this is kind of like a finishing technique. And through there, and then it looks like I'm done with my pink. How's that? It's not really a tulip, but if you're making something small, it is. So there's my tulip bulb head, and I'm gonna just snip so I have less. So I still want enough to weave in the fur tails. Okay, so now I'm going to very carefully, I'm going to make, not very carefully, but I need to have some green, maybe not that much. I need some green, and I'm going to make the base of my flower, the stem. So I'm going to, I always want to make a slip knot, but I don't need that today. Habits, guys, habits. So I'm going to come down here and see where my little base of my tulip is. I'm going to start. How much do I have? Okay, and I'm going to come in, do my duplicate stitch behind. Okay, and down. And if you're following along with me and you're doing this, you're probably realizing this isn't so hard after all. The only thing that gets me with this duplicate stitch is like I can never get it, I feel like I can never get it to sit right on top, but sometimes you want it to kind of look like that. Okay. I'm gonna do enough of a stem that you can tell it's a flower. This is pretty cute now. See? Let's keep going. I think I want 4. So the only thing is if you work from top to bottom, it can kind of protrude out like that. So, and I'm using a comparable yarn too. You want to use, like, if you're working in a Aran weight yarn, you want to use an Aran weight. You don't want to use something really thin for an Aran on top of an Aran weight, and you don't want to use something really thick on top of a really thin yarn. So that's one more thing to pay attention to. Okay, so we're almost done with our duplicate stitching. All right, there's that. It's not the prettiest right there, so you could come back and fix that. Maybe I'll come over this way So the way you'd fix that is by kind of weaving the tail in. Maybe kind of, you can come one more around if you want, like that. It does make it a little thick, so just do it as sparing as possible. See, I'm kind of, yeah, it's not really what I wanted, but that's okay. So see, there's my tulip. I'm gonna come over here and give myself a little leaf, just because I'm already here, so I might as well. And just be careful, try not to go through the tails. It might take some practice. Okay, maybe, so there's your little leaf. If you want, you could do one more maybe up here, and that would be like kind of a lot like doing, I've seen this type of like Swiss chalet type sweater. Oop. There. See? Like this. So that's really cute. It's not like a real complicated design, but it's something you could do on top. And here's what it looks like behind. So it doesn't, as long as you don't go through, this is where you kind of take that back. As long as you don't go through your other yarn, you're doing good. So I kind of went through, see? So that's bad. That's a no-no. But you cut these off. And then you'd weave these in underneath where your pink is and where your green is. Okay? And that's how you do duplicate stitch. Okay, so this is the last technique we're going to do today. We are going to needle point or embroider on top of crochet. So you can do it on top of knitting too. I find that the nicest one looks good on top of a tight one, like a tight crochet or knit piece. So the less holes in this, the better. So you can use these crewel needles if you need to do a lot more delicate work, because they have a sharp point at the end with a big head. Or if you're doing something relatively, you know, you can do it with this. If you're doing something where you don't have to worry about splitting, you can just use a tapestry needle, whatever works. So I am not embroidering with yarn. I'm going to embroider with embroidery thread. So I need to open this. Oh, one came out, so that's good enough. Just use that. I'm going to use embroidery thread. So I am going to find something that's already kind of undone. Maybe I will make another tulip, or maybe I could just make a sunflower or something. I've got this yellow, which is pretty. So what I'm gonna do is, these come in these little thread packages like this at the craft store. You can, I wonder how much of this I have. Now you can see how messy my bag is. You can make this as complicated or as uncomplicated as you want it to be. I'm not going to, I'll use this orange. How about that? So I like when so it comes in really long lengths, okay? So when you cut it, where are the ends? There are two ends. Here's one. And it should come in 6, because that's how these work. There's 6 strands in a thread. And maybe I only want 2. I think I'll take 3 today. You can split them. So I'm actually going to cut a length like this much. If you cut it before you split them, it won't tangle. But if you don't, then you'll tangle and you'll have to buy another one. It's kind of the way it goes. In a perfect world, I would be holding the end of this with my mouth, so, or something like shape. Okay, so I'm going to thread this through my tapestry needle. If you can't get it, just lick the end to get that to sit, okay? And then I'm going to do a, this is the back. I'm gonna come in here and I'm going to just kind of sit it on top. Oop, I'm gonna sit it on top. This way it's okay to split, okay? I'm going to sit it on top with my 3 strands, and I'm going to make a knot with this. Okay, like that. One more time. That's just a normal knot. You don't have to do it like this, but if you have a way you prefer. Another way is to kind of come in this way one more time, and then like that and through. Like that, and that will make you a knot. If it doesn't do that, I don't know why it's doing that right now. I'm sorry. I was gonna show you something clever and it's decided to make a loop. Alright, so pretend that knot worked. Now we're gonna go through here, and we could do what we did in previous videos where we did like a loop like this, where we come like that, come close, and back to this again, and then to embroider, we want our daisy chain. Gonna come like that, pick up our loop, and make sure our loop kind of sits like that. Okay. Right. So then if you want to make something real simplistic like a daisy, come around, come in, so then we're going to keep, you have to use a little loop to secure it in place. Okay. So we're going around a little circle. So kind of shape it, see what you like for it to look like, and then go into, it's kind of a little intuitive, but you're kind of just coming into the same spot you came in before with both of these. So here's a good example. I did not go into the right one, so let's undo that and bring it back through, and maybe this time, so yeah, it's a mess on the other side. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe next time we'll just fix this. Okay, try this again. Just an example of how sometimes things don't always go the way you want. But it does end up looking okay, so let's just keep going. And there are several more advanced techniques, but I really want to show you how, and that was a pretty good example of how if you don't place it perfectly, it kind of does end up sitting wrong. So let's go through, we want to go through somewhere that has some stitching, like here. So like that. Make sure this doesn't get in the way. Okay, like that. Tug a little. And then if it's not super close, it's okay, but just make sure it sits nice, okay? So maybe we just want to get two or three more petals. So my petals aren't super beautiful, but that's okay. If you pull too hard, just pull a little. Oh! Always make sure you have enough yarn to, or thread, sorry. Thread. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, this isn't the most beautiful thing I've ever made, but there. So we've got our little daisy. I'm going to kind of just, this looks kind of silly. I'm going to just kind of bring it over here and just tie it off like I did before. Remember with embroidery, there's a back and a front. This is really messy, so don't do as I do. Don't work with a loop. You know, just kind of. So, okay, I did that. We've got that cute little daisy right there. So maybe I'll come back to here and I'll pick up some yellow. Not this little bit of yellow that's so small. Maybe this purple. Let's see if I have enough. I already have some. Embroidery is just kind of like this. It just takes a while. Okay. And give yourself enough thread that you can hold on. Okay, so I'm going to come through the center again, but through the back first. So I'll just do a knot back here like I did before. And then maybe I'll just, can always cut the end off too. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here and do a French knot. So you can wrap it around 2 times, 3 times, just depends on how big you want the knot to be. And then when you come in, you want to kind of split it a little, come down, kind of hold that down there. And oh, okay, so I'm doing French knots. So I come in, try not to get this stuck in, pretend that's not there. Okay, there's a lot that I'm doing that is not the greatest. Okay, so you want to come here, you want to wrap it around. I have another video on French knots, so I mean, wrap it around twice, if you can see that. And then go kind of back into the same place you went, as close as you can. And then you kind of want to hold these in, like tightly, and down and through. So it helps to kind of hold the French knot in. And I didn't do it right, so kind of got stuck, but that's fine. So I've got them, they're there. I'm not doing the best job of illustrating it, but maybe I could try one more time. So when you do a French knot, you kind of want to wrap it around maybe 1, 2, or 3 times. I'll go kind of farther this time. And then I'm going to kind of hold it down, and I would maybe do it with 6. There you go. So that's a French knot. Okay? I would pick a larger thread. I'd pick 3, but that's okay. So come close, 1, wrap it around maybe 3 times. Okay? And then kind of go a little further than what you would normally. Kind of hold it down, but be delicate about it. There you go. That one's not wanting to come through correct, but one more time. Okay, so there's your other French knot. So sometimes it's a little tricky. You can see how I ruined it a little by incorporating the end, the tail, but see what you would end up doing is your needle point or your embroidery on your crochet, you'd want to do it after you're done. So that's one of the things to look out for. Let's just cut that. Okay, so there, it's not the most beautiful, but you've got a little daisy with some French knots. It's not the most difficult thing to do, but it just takes a little bit of practice. So I encourage you to try this out at home. Do your duplicate stitch, do your embroidery. They're all kind of the same idea, but it's something you can do to make your work prettier. Okay guys, so that finishes up week 6. I hope you liked learning how to do the duplicate stitch and incorporating color into your knits. And I hope that you also enjoyed watching me struggle with embroidering on crochet, but it's not that hard. It takes a little bit of practice, but you can get into it. So give it a try. It's just figuring out where to put your needle through the stitch. So good luck. Thanks for coming.